Coming up, we take a look at updates to Power BI, including new capabilities to help you bookmark and spotlight your data during presentations, enhanced AI for quick insights and Q&A, options for bidirectional integration between Power BI and other apps, new metrics to see how your reports are being consumed, and how you can securely share your reports externally. We're also going to show you how you can achieve increased scale and performance with Power BI Premium. So I'm joined today by Will Thompson, a familiar face from the Power BI engineering team. Welcome.
Thanks very much. Pleasure to be on the show.
So it's been a while since we've featured Power BI and Microsoft Mechanics, but if people haven't looked at Power BI in a while, what's new?
So as you know, we've been constantly evolving Power BI Desktop to make more rich analytic and reporting applications. We've also been bringing more AI-type capabilities with two particular features, Quick Insights and Q&A. We've been making investments in other ways to integrate Power BI into other application experiences, and also providing some more scale and performance options through something called Power BI Premium.
All right, so let's dive into it and see what you can do with Power BI in action.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I'm going to show is a couple of improvements that we've been making around navigating through your data through a feature called bookmarks and one called drill through.
Okay.
So I'm here in Power BI Desktop, which is where people will spend most of their time when they're building reports. And I've got some data here about the top 100 movies every year since 1985. There's a whole host of data here. And drawing interesting insights out to help tell a story can be quite difficult. And that's where bookmarks come in. I've got a few set up here on the right-hand side already. And actually just creating one's really simple. I'll just set the report up exactly how I want to show one of these insights and choose Add. Then I can rename it. We're looking here at Warner Brothers, so let's just call it WB, and then reorder it to put it into the order of the story that I want to tell. Mm-hmm. That's going to really help you. If you imagine like I'm a part of a streaming company or I work for a movie studio, and I want to tell this really kind of concise and impactful story around the data, bookmarks will help me do that. So when I'm presenting this story back to my executives, I can just click through these to go scene by scene through my story. So here I'm looking at, Warner Brothers, one of the most successful franchises, Harry Potter.
Right.
But I can also do things like spotlighting on a particular visual to really draw people's attention to that. You'll see it dims everything else out around it in the report and really focuses on that chart.
And how do you do that spotlight?
Well, creating that's really simple. Just select the visual that you want, and on this ... menu, you'll see there's a spotlight option. And that enables or disables this kind of dimming. You don't have to do any other formatting, it's just part of that bookmark.
So you can just walk through these bookmarks, and I'm thinking back to all those times I typically create a PowerPoint deck and tell the story that I want. In this case, there's no extra work, and the data is all something that you can interact with, which is super cool. So what about offline use? Can I do things like add notes or audio or other things to be able to really make different reports pop?
Yeah, you can add commentary in the forms of things like text boxes or even shapes. So for example, I've got this detail report here. I can put boxes around things to highlight particular bits of information, and text boxes here as well. So if somebody else was reviewing these bookmarks without me present, they can still get more of that information as well.
Right.
And ink and audio is a really interesting idea. It's something that we're really thinking about adding in the future. One of the other great things about these bookmarks is that if somebody wants to go off-piste and kind of do some more analysis and click around, they can do that as part of this story. So I can use another feature here called drill through. For example, I might jump to one of these specific movies. When I right-click on it, I'll see this option for drill through to the movie details.
Okay.
And that will take me to another page in the report, filtered down to just the movie that I was looking at.
So what do you have to do to set up that drill through?
That was really simple, right? So over on the right-hand side here, you'll see there's an area here called drill through filters. And all I need to do is find the field that I'm interested in. So in this case, I'm looking at a movie. It might be that I'm looking at a customer or a particular product or a service line, or whatever it is that's relevant in your organization. I drag that over into this drill through filters area, and now any chart that I have that uses that field, I can drill through on.
Okay, that makes it very easy and very easy to interact with, like we see here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really great then for navigating all the different BI reports that we have. Now you mentioned intelligence. What are we doing in terms of infusing intelligence into Power BI?
Yeah, sure. So AI is a really big investment area for us. And one of those areas that we're doing is bringing some capabilities that we had up in the Power BI service, which helped end users find insights in the data behind the dashboards. And we found that it's actually also really beneficial to augment the human process of data analysis.
Right.
So not just something as an end user when I've got a pre-formatted dashboard, but here when I'm trying to find those insights. For example, I'm looking at gross takings here again. And I can see there was this big jump from 2014 to 2015. Now, with a new capability called Quick Insights, rather than having to go and try and build the charts that I need to find out what that was, I could just ask Power BI and say, analyze this and explain the increase for me.
Okay.
What this is going to do is go and run a set of machine learning algorithms to go and try and find what are the biggest things that impacted that change over those 2 years.
Right.
We can see there are some particular movies that made a big impact there. But actually, at the studio level, you'll see Universal and Buena Vista were really big contributors to that change. And I can use these to help me build out the visuals in my report. All I need to do, I can choose different visualization types here.
So that looks really good because you can see kind of what was contributing to the gains and the losses.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really nice way of visualizing that data. Now, I could have gone and built this manually, but I would have taken a lot of steps. Power BI has done it for me.
Right.
So when I add it here, I can see, Universal and Buena Vista were way higher than the other studios. And for Buena Vista in particular, it's because of Star Wars. That was a massive movie that year.
So what this is doing, it's really looking for anomalies then in the data, but kind of as you scroll the list, you might find some different things that are kind of useful and some things that aren't as useful. And you can actually vote up and down those types of insights, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm looking at that list, I've got these thumbs up and thumbs down buttons as well. So you can help give us feedback to help train the model as to why that wasn't or was important.
So in this case, Power BI really helped you in terms of building out that visual for you and really stopped you from having to build that all out yourself, even though you probably could have. What else can we do to save time then with Power BI?
Yeah, let's swap over to another data set, and I'll show you something else that we've brought from those end user dashboards, and that's natural language analysis.
Okay.
A feature called Q&A that we've brought here into the desktop, again, to help people build those visuals quickly.
And we've been using Q&A in the browser for a while.
Right, exactly. So I've got some data here about traffic accidents. So it's really simple, though, using this Q&A feature to just start asking questions. So I can say, what was the average age of drivers? And immediately, it's going to give me a response back. Really simple. I just ask a question, and it's going to give me a visual back here.
And the great thing is if you're a bad typist with lots of typos like me, it even accommodates for that.
Yeah, and I can say things like how many accidents per state. And it'll understand that as you're asking for information about a state, you probably want to see it on a map, and it will give you the right sort of visualization based on some rules we have about data visualization best practice.
Very cool, and you can even filter more and more into that data set, right?
Exactly, it's just like any other visual in my report. But I can ask actually some really complex questions here as well. So I could say something like, what was the average age of male passengers? And I can keep specifying more filters on this that people who used a seatbelt, and even then, like in King County, where we are here in Seattle, and where the weather was clear.
Okay.
And Power BI is going to iterate over that and find all the relevant bits of information and pull it out and just give me a result back. Really, really simple.
Right. In this case, also, not all the fields were actually named the way that you actually had them in the tabular data. So this really helped in terms of kind of translating all that into human speech.
It does. And you can train this model as well and add kind of more linguistic capabilities to it. So for example, that word seatbelt doesn't actually exist in the model. They talk about a restraint or a helmet.
Right.
Those are the things that's kind of the terminology in the data. But we've been able to teach and train that model to help understand some more words.
So lots of really great time savers. So let's switch gears for a second, though, and talk about how we can extend the benefits of Power BI into other Office experiences. So we've seen integration in the past with things like Teams or SharePoint, but what are some new things that we can do with Power BI?
Yeah, it's not just Office. We can actually take Power BI content and embed it into any application. So any third-party application, a developer can use our API to pull Power BI content into their app. Okay. But it works the other way as well. We can bring really rich content from other places, for example, Visio, right here into the Power BI desktop reports. So there's a custom visualization that the Visio team made. And when you connect to the Office 365 store here from within Power BI desktop, I can search through all the different visualizations that are available for Power BI. And Visio is just one of those. Once you've actually embedded that into your report, you can hook it up to any Visio diagram. And here's an example where we've done that. So I've got like a retail floor plan here, hooked up to some Power BI report charts. And when I want to, if I just choose one of these data points, I'll see that the Visio diagram gets filtered down and focuses on just the carousel or the rack with the clothing on it for that type of clothing. Conversely, I could click on something in the diagram. For example, I'd use this red one because there's something going wrong there. I can see it being highlighted in the charts on the right-hand side too.
So this looks really powerful in terms of kind of making a spatial context for the data that you're seeing. So you can really narrow down, in this case, the racks where maybe sales are better versus other racks in that retail environment. Now, if you want to see how all this is set up, we have a show on the latest Visio updates where you can learn more in terms of how to get all this running for yourself. So we just saw a lot of great ways to derive insights and really create a story that's been enriched with custom visuals. How do I go about getting this all distributed then within my organization?
Right. So for a while, we've had some really simple ways of sharing dashboards and reports, but we're making some enhancements to build ways of sharing sets of purpose-built reports and dashboards to your users through something called Power BI apps. So, like I said, you've been able to do something simple here for a little while, which is when I have a particular dashboard, I just hit the share button, and I can start typing email addresses to send an invite to an individual bit of content. Mm-hmm. But if I've got a number of dashboards here or reports as well, and I want to package those all up, I can create this Power BI app. So from here in this workspace, I'm going to choose the different bits that I want to include in my application, and then choose to publish that app. I'm going to do things like give it a description. I can review the bits of content that are going to be included and choose which is the landing page for it. And then I'm going to choose who's going to have access to this application. Is it something that I'm going to put out to everybody in my organization, or are there specific individuals or groups? And this is all just backed by Office 365, Azure Active Directory to determine who's going to be able to get access to this. And then when it comes to consuming this, I just come to this apps page, and this gives me a really clean, clear view of all of the dashboards and reports that I need to do my job.
Right, so this is really great in terms of making it easy for internal sharing. Of course, you can share one by one as well.
Yeah, that's right. And for external sharing, we've also integrated with Azure Active Directory B2B. That's now available through Power BI too.
Right, this is a technology we've covered in the past on the show. So let me demonstrate how to make all of this work, because it's actually pretty simple to set up. In fact, it's set up by default with Azure AD when you're using Power BI. So here I am inside of Azure Active Directory, and you can see that I've got a lot of internal users in my tenant. And here I've got one with a globe here, and that actually is an external user. I've already set that user up. And what I can do here from an IT perspective is, if I want, I can go ahead and add a new guest user. And what that does, it basically triggers a process where I can add a user if I want to add something, any email address, and then I can invite that person in. And when I click invite, they'll basically get an invite sent from me to be able to sign in and kind of broker that connection between their Azure Active Directory, their organizational ID, and ours. Now, as part of this, also, what we can do is use Power BI to do that sharing, right? Yeah,
that's useful if you're trying to pre-add like a bulk set of users ahead of time as an admin. Mm-hmm. But I can do something as an ad hoc user as well. So as I'm just a user of Power BI, whenever I come to share, actually, I can type in anybody's email address here. So any email address at all, even something outside of my organization, and that'll generate an email invitation and kick off kind of the same workflow. I'd only be doing that if I was using Power BI Pro, or if my work's content's on Power BI Premium.
And this is, again, Pro to Pro, or going Premium to somebody outside of the kind of the Power BI Pro user group. Now here in Azure AD, again, what I can do if I want to as well, in terms of setting up the different permissions, I can also do things like control exactly what external sharing is enabled for my tenants. So I can set these things up to suit my specific needs and my information protection requirements for my organization. All these controls are here inside of user settings within Azure AD. Right, in this case, so obviously the more we start sharing our reports externally and to other stakeholders, the more demand we're going to create for these reports, right?
Yeah, that's right. As we've seen many organizations running their operations with Power BI, we've actually introduced an option that can give you more dependable performance and the ability to analyze and report over really large data volumes. Typically, when you're creating Power BI reports, your workloads are running on the same computational resources as those shared by other customers. And we call this a shared capacity. With Power BI Premium, on the other hand, you get what we call a premium capacity. And this is essentially dedicated resources for your whole organization or for specific divisions within your organization. And that can service all of their different reporting needs. And they can even subscribe to different capacity tiers. And depending on the capacity that you select, that can scale your data to hundreds of millions of rows. For example, we've been able to store every taxi trip taken in New York City since 2009. There's a huge volume of data. Mm-hmm. And from the Power BI admin portal, I can see the capacities that I've got management access to. When I click on one of these, I'll see even things like the CPU and memory utilization for that capacity's hardware.
So now, as a Power BI user, how do I go about tracking the usage and whether or not people are actually consuming my reports?
Yeah, so for individual reports and dashboards, anybody who owns one of those reports can click this little usage icon. And that'll generate a usage metrics report about the report you clicked on. It's really meta. I'm reporting on my reports.
Right.
And this shows me everything like the number of views per day or the number of unique viewers per day. And I can do things like slicing and filtering it by whether they were using mobile or web or whatever, even down to the individual report page that they were looking at. Mm-hmm. Now, this is kind of a read-only report, but I can also hit Save As and create a copy of it, and then I can go to town. I've got all of the data there, and I can create whatever reports, whatever metrics I want to help me track usage of my reports.
And you have the right tool to start creating reports from that data.
Right, exactly. It's called Power BI.
So a really great set of updates that you shared today. So where would people go then to get started with all of this and learn more?
Yeah, it's really simple. You can go to powerbi.com to learn more and to get started for free, or you can visit us on YouTube. Just find the Power BI channel, and you can get a whole host of additional tutorials if you're not fed up with listening to me already.
All right, and of course, you can keep watching and subscribe to Microsoft Mechanics for the latest updates. That's all the time we have for this show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.